idea of this discussion is to see how the GCCs and then the startups can work together. So we had another session yesterday regarding GCCs and startups. So in today's session, we will just focus on how do we engage, how do GCCs engage with startups. So that'll be the focus. And then, we have two stalwarts from the GCC ecosystem. Praveena has been running multiple GCCs. She's been in that area for quite a while. And also Srinivas is a veteran in Schneider. And then, so these two people don't need any other introduction. So I would rather have, ask a little questions and then, I will have them answer more or talk more. So that is how it is. So let's start this whole process. To start with, so we often hear this term that GCCs have moved away, or rather, they are looking at value addition in addition to cost arbitrage. How it all started was just a cost arbitrage, but today it's more about adding value. And what does value mean? Is that innovation? Is that something else? And how does that entire value or innovation happen in your particular GCC? I would start with Praveena, and then, this is a question for both of you. And then after that, Srini will also chip in.
Thank you so much for having us here. Good afternoon, everyone. So in the interest of the audience here, the startup, community that we have here, I'd like to say that for GCCs, whom I represent here, we've always spoken about that cost and value. But fast forward 2025, for my company, which is Maximus, based in US, has centers in various countries. So quite widespread audience and quite widespread employee base. But at the end of the day, when we decide to do something in India, my first thing that I wanted to do was that stay away from those measurements which we had in the past and start a new measurement, which is basically talking about the bottom line of the company. And I'm sure, startup industry is going to think about, you all talk about P&L and bottom line, right? So we introduced a concept called revenue per employee. So that is the key differentiator, which I can say that, we have evolved from where we were to now, where I'm interested sitting in India, how I'm going to contribute to the revenue of the company. And best way is to measure us. And we put a metric called revenue per employee. And we've put that in our vision document. We have a specific plan to get to that particular metric and ensure that, we run similar to the startup mindset, and I call that saying, startup with a rich, investment backup. So, yeah, that would be a summary of, where we stand today with respect to the GCCs. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, Srini.
Sure. First of all, good afternoon. I hope we're not in between your lunch and this session, so that you have an appetite to listen some interesting inputs that we're going to share. So for me, I think we have a large number of startups here. A startup coming to my office, by the way, I represent a company called Schneider Electric, as introduced. Every day I get to meet at least 2 or 3 startups, Everyone has the same pitch. But whom would I select? I would select a startup which understands what is value. The same question he asked, what is value? For me, value is nothing but innovation. Today, the person or the startup which is extreme in their innovation, I would give them the first chance. Second, have they been tried and tested? Do they have some clientele? Do they have some use cases? I would probably give them the second opportunity. Now, coming back to these use cases, which of these indicators at a global level are we shaking up by bringing in these startups? You have innovation. Are you going to improve 10 basis points, 20 basis points on your net promoter score or a customer satisfaction score or a stakeholder, satisfaction, which is bringing in optimization, operational excellence, bringing in automation. By the way, don't forget, whatever you're doing, your competitor is also doing. So you have to be 10 years ahead. That's where the innovative cutting edge is very important. So to the startups, try not going big. Take small, exponential improvement on innovation, have some clientele. I'm sure the same client will actually take you global over a period of time. So I think it's a step-by-step scale.
Okay. So, anyways, what I will do is I'll follow up that with another question. So, traditionally, GCCs built everything in house. Primarily because you wanted that control, and also you are always worried about IP security. So, I mean, you look at Snyder, so you are deeply entrenched in energy management and then automation, areas requiring a lot of technology, lot of thinking. So, when do you decide this is something which we will do in house, or this is something for which we need to look out for somebody, some startup, who is either solving that problem today or they're capable of solving that problem. So the bigger question is that when.
I think it's a great question. I think even today we are in that confusion.
Okay.
When? But it's a very thin line. When do you decide whether you have to go external? And by the way, ours is a French company, and this GDPR rules are there for the last 15 years. So data going out into a third party is like crime. It's very tough. But you want to be the cutting edge on the innovation. Can your internal people do that? Do you have the skill? Do you have to bring some more, new skill talents over there and to improve that? So I think it's a simple seesaw of build versus buy. So you need to draw a line. If you have to buy and then weigh the consultants or startups to see who have done this, and if you have to build within, because technology or what you want to build doesn't happen overnight, right? You know what you want to do in the next 6 months. So you can also build. Considering the data sensitivity, and now with India also coming up with DPDP or DP square, while it's still not clear, a lot is getting on the papers yet. Uh, for me, I think the simple answer for this one is build versus buy. So you take a call with different parameters whether you need to buy or you build internally by mentoring, coaching, or whatever, and giving them additional trainings so that you retain your data IPs inside your organization. And at the same time, look at the route which takes you faster to the destination. So it's a 3-degree angle for you to decide whether it should be whether internal or outside.
Okay.
So I would like to add on top of what you said, Shrini, because example for my organization, we work for agencies which are in government, and our clients are government. And if we have to win a contract, it gets awarded now, but we implement somewhere from 18 months to 24 months away. And so you can imagine that, the amount of innovation that needs to happen for a technology to be sustainable and relevant 2 years from now, the solution has to be really, going to be thinking about in future. And I think that is what innovation is all about, that you're doing for two reasons. One, you do not have a solution for a problem today, or you're inventing something that is going to change the world order in the future, isn't it? So when those situations are coming up front, when I took the role, I felt like, hey, this looks like more an innovation, hunt versus running a regular global capability center. So for me, the decision of whether I want to do this or not is no more available, because I think I'm at the cusp of that revolution in industry itself, technology as such, that we must invent every 6 months. Otherwise, like Srini said, our competitors are going to do better than us, or some other organizations or some other companies, if they are not adapting themselves to the speed at which technology is changing, I'm going to be irrelevant. So that is when I would say that my inflection point is that I don't think being in the technology industry is enough, but I need to see both build versus buy. Also, that, should I be actually setting the tone for world order, because we are in the business of providing solutions like solutions for Department of Defense, Homeland Security, cyber security, healthcare, everything. You're touching everything about citizens, for a country. So the only way I can move forward is technology, and the only way I can move forward with the speed and scale is if I'm actually leveraging the ecosystem of every available instrument that I have. And you just said that the numbers speak for themselves. 1,700 GCCs were 1 lakh, registered startups. So the simple logic for me is, sense is that, I must look into the startup industry and the ecosystem to find my solutions. And the decision is based on that, but the next actions are based on how much I'm able to influence both sides of the industry, both my headquarters plus the startups also, to think in terms of how they can contribute to the bottom line of the company, right? So co-creation, co-invention is the next game for me, is what I say. Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. So, so I have another twist to this whole thing. So we talked about when are you going to go and then say look at whether this is an in-house or a build or a buy. But then the next question is, how do you find that startup? How do you find that startup? Say you have your internal product owners, or for a better term, we will call them entrepreneurs. So, do you empower them to go and then look out for startups, or do you go through this rigid process of all this procurement that typically goes through, where you have to go do an RFP and stuff like that? So what exactly is the process? How much freedom do these people have in identifying the startups?
So maybe I'll start with a question to the audience. Do you feel that you have the freedom all the time to start something as a solution? Yes or no? Yes, you can say, share. See, the answer lies in this, right? Nobody has a freedom on the day one to do something, but you must start somewhere, right? So that is what we are trying to build, that as a cultural change. So three things I talk about in my organization, which is, one is culture, the other is impact, and the third is opportunity. The culture itself is that, hey, you ask a question without any fear of, failure. So startups mindset is like, if you're not looking at the failure first, but you're looking at the opportunity first and then inventing it. So to encourage that, a lot of instruments already in play. We conduct hackathon, which allows people to opinionate, ideate, and then we build a platform where we take that and then put that into action, which are related to business problems. And when that happens, we pitch it to the right stakeholders. In this case, pitching is done for our management and board, and we say, this solution we want to bring. If you allow us, we will probably build this into, these are the ROIs, and exactly like a pitch. It is no different than a pitch that we make to our stakeholders. So when we do that, building the confidence and competencies to pitch that, most of the technology teams may not be a very good negotiators and communicators. So we build those skill sets. The third and the most important is opportunity. What is that opportunity that we are creating for the teams? The opportunity is to put their work into production and see that working, and then doing the magic of two, three things. Building a contract. Winning a contract itself is a testimony that what you build is relevant. So the culture piece is one which I advocate internally. I shield my team from the bureaucracy of them trying to, win someone's heart or someone's mind in the influencers or the stakeholders, because I'm bridging that gap. But internally giving them that freedom or the mindset that they can think freely, and leveraging every technology solution that's out there to the question of, GDPR or DPDP or any other. We are into business of government agencies, so let alone anything else, that itself is a big restrictions for us to touch the data. So how do you use technology to mask the data, to encrypt the data, and create sandboxes? So trying to expand that to that concept more than what we do within our development community. So that is the culture, the impact, and the opportunity, which basically is the backbone of our ecosystem that we're trying to build at Maximus.
Okay. So, anything to add there?
No, I think you actually put in some very interesting points, and 3 points triggered to my mind, and I may have to speak a little longer now. One, coming back to your innovation, in Snyder, we do every 6 months R&D days, and this is only for the startups. They come present, we select them, give them a challenge, they go back and come back with a solution, and then it's kind of a competition. Because today technology is evolving every night, not every year. So it is changing ever fast. Point number one. Point number two is there's one interesting word I've learned is PTSD. And I'll tell you what that is if you have heard, if you haven't heard. Process improvement, technology, skill, and then data. Today, what happened with so much of technology in front of you, you immediately jump onto technology and try to fix that. That will never work. First, fix your processes. End-to-end processes have to be first fixed. Then bring in relevant technology. You know, it could be, you already have good ERPs, you have good ecosystem, you have good systems, but then each one of them are not talking to each other. That's when the technology actually helps. Third one is the skill. The skill one is super important. What happened the moment the AI wave came in the last 3-4 years? Everyone started hiring AI specialists. Today, they stopped. They stopped hiring AI specialists, at least in the companies I've known, because they want not only these AI specialists, there are no strong specialists on the persona. Someone who doesn't understand order booking, someone who doesn't understand these guys are technical guys. You give them, they will code, they will do whatever possible. But if they don't understand what customer actually needs, you sitting and designing is something is not really good. So you need to marry both of them. So now most of the organizations are trying to bring in the persona SMEs, a lot of them. And then comes the data. Data is the last for me. If you set all of this, by the time you set all of this, the data is almost 80%, 90% right. So it's also an interesting topic for the startups to even look into. When customer or one of your clients ask you to design something, if you immediately jump onto your technical skills and so on and so forth, it doesn't work. I mean, I at least mentor a couple of startups and I tell them this. Start with the end-to-end process. Map them. What is missing today? And mind you, all clients want exponential improvement. Not 10%, 5%, 20%. They want exponential. And I'm for sure, let's ourselves be a customer. You want an exponential experience. So how do you move from 0 to 10 in just few months? So that's where the value add of a startup actually comes in. Sorry, I have to just chime in and say these interesting ones.
So that's fine. But see, if any startup sitting here, they would want to, get scouted by, your process. Even if they want to come and, come into your hackathon and stuff like that. So how do they know about it? So do you publish them on your website, or, do you have anything like that?
So first of all, it's a journey which we are all in together. This discussion did not happen in any other forums that I've been. So this is one of the first starting ones that I'm attending where we are directly talking to the right audience of the startup ecosystem, right? First, companies like ours should have the mindset and intent to do in that direction. So which I think I'm very proud that, at Maximus, specifically in India, we are starting that. In the US, we have a similar culture. So the culture is embedded in the organization itself. So sometimes you have to be very lucky to find an organization as such, which actually allows it, and not just allow, but actually thrives on innovation. So for me, specifically coming to my organization in India, we are going to set up a ecosystem where we are going to partner with startups. We're going to call for that. I don't know what we can call that, RFI, RFP, but in a mission to attract basis the business problems that we are trying to solve for, and and keep in mind, everything else remains same. All regulations have to be met, data, privacy, security, everything must be met, but the innovation need not be compromised when we look for solutions. When that happens, that opens up the discussion and the dialogue. Right now, we're not even talking. At least in the domain that I am in, I have seen other sectors like financial sectors, not every financial organization, but some sectors within the finance domain probably have done that in the past, where they have in other ecosystems of startups, for example, they would have had a partnership with the organization, which actually allows that entry into the ecosystem of startups. Other cities I'm talking about. So coming to now, Government of Kerala, at least that's what I've come and from. That my commitment is there, where we are going to partner with the ecosystem here, which allows us that dialogue. Second comes is, what fits into our entire business proposition. And we will run this as a proper startup, in the sense every discussion has to be won, every ROI has to be celebrated, and co-creating that. In that process, it's not as simple as, like I said. So everyone must be invested in it equally, like I'm doing, and that means that relevant partnerships must be made, awareness must be made. Like Shini said, understanding our business is very, very critical for startups to even think of in that direction, because it is such a vast domain, and an idea is a very small idea which we pick up and then we start running with it. We are in the business of customer service, so CX, EX, Gen AI becomes a big player. We have to learn our existing models. We have to build new models. As much as we like, there will be still human in the loop. But what are those solutions which actually can reduce the human in the loop and bring more of agentic AI and Gen AI into this mix of technical solutions that will make our business simpler? And those solutions can be more domain agnostic, and that can scale across different domains, right? This is what I think we should be talking, and I'm 100% vested in it, personally and professionally, from my organization.
Absolutely. So, a kind of a slightly different twist on this, because see, startups have a different way of working. So they just move very fast. They try this and then they break things, and then so they just roll over again, and then so do things. But when it comes to GCCs and established companies, especially like Schneider and all, say you're all about compliance, stability, and security and stuff like that. So how do these two different work styles, how can they work together? And for a startup, the last thing that they want is to get crushed by all of these compliance requirements and stuff like that. So how do you think that that meeting point is possible?
I think there is no sweet spot still.
Okay.
It's case to case basis. Uh, Back to the previous point of scouting startups, I wanted to say one thing. Uh, Today, startups are you don't scout. Rather, I call a couple of these startups as Sherpas. I don't know if you heard a word called Sherpa during in Himalayas. This guy actually takes you up. It's his responsibility. He will carry the luggage. He will take you up and then safely bring you down. So those are Sherpas. So the role of startups are actually becoming Sherpas. It's not only just doing an intervention, coming and moving, using your technical knowledge and just doing this piece and like a plumber fixing that and just going. That is not what is expected from this startup. The need and expectations on startups are actually growing massive. Well, I say that companies also have a choice of many. That's what the problem is. I have a problem, but is there a specific startup I have to go? There are thousands. Who is that specialized guy? I do not want to do a recruitment process now, calling 100 people, coming to 10, and then offering one person. So that's another one which we have to simplify. Coming back to the question on the compliance part, we are quite strict. because our organization is well embedded with this GDPR for decades. So even if it is selling a product, if you have to keep customer data with you, with us, we take a sign. And that's exactly is the role now changing everywhere in India also, because if you buy a car, if you have an app, if you're allowing the company to use the data where you're traveling, how many kilometers, what speed, how many times you braked on all of this, you need to agree for them to use that. So it's getting quite strict. So what we did with this startups is we created some kind of sandboxes with limited data, uh, proxy data, not the live data, for us to at least do a prototype and see if it is working. And then once we achieve that, so we don't bring in any startup at an RFP level. The moment global RFP process starts, you can kill 1 year, and multinational companies. So we start something small with a small co-created solution, sandboxes on premises. There people sit in our premises, work on this solution. So it's a fine balance. There is still no trade secret about for what you will use how. Company has to work with the startup to see how you don't breach the limitations.
Okay, great. Anything for you to add to that?
So I just want to say this, what he said is the reality, right? That we must all accept that, we are in the ages where everything changes so fast. So making sure that, your adaptability quotient is really high is absolute requirement, not just for startups, but for GCC leaders or for industry, uh, politics, world, in everything, that we must say that, the adaptability quotient has to be really, really high. So that means you must have patience, but patience goes back to the attachment and expectation. So the expectation is that it must always flourish, or it must always find a anchor. But in my mind, I say that it's not that. Example is that at Maximus, I'm even questioning how the contracts are written, because what was valid or relevant 10, 15 years back, is it really valid and relevant even now? Not, right? So it's a mind that is curious, that is questioning how things were done in the past, so that we can actually break some of those barriers which were set up for some X reason, but we have evolved from that X to Y to Z to I don't know where else, right? So it is that mind of leadership that must exist in the right places for these things to work. So it's a collective thing. It is not one driven by one person, one organization, or one agency.
Okay. So, again, building on that thing. So, there is something which I really liked, the way Srini, you said that the startup should be the Sherpas. And then also you made a statement that, see, there, I mean, you mentioned the word co-creation. But when we talk about these two things, so, but typically you are looking at two different organizations coming together. And typically it will have that vendor customer kind of a relationship. But when we talk about, say, things like co-creation, is that something which the GCCs will be open to? Because ultimately where it can lead to, maybe acqui-hiring or maybe acquisition, you don't know, or just using the startup as a sandbox, just to try some risky ideas. So how does this whole thing will work in your organization? What will be the modes of engagement?
Sure. I know it's after lunch, so I'm trying to keep it a bit light. When your daughter is getting married, she's actually going to a second family, some of the family which you don't even know. But she's getting married, right? So you need to live with them. They are your relatives. Tomorrow you'll have to speak to them. You may not like their wavelength. Their wavelength is different. Your wavelength is different. Your daughter and your son-in-laws is different. But then a marriage is a marriage. It happened. Here, when it comes to the scenario of the startup versus the corporates, again, it's that thin line. For example, if a startup, let's assume there is a apartment just 5 kilometers from here in Kerala. At 1 a.m., the power is gone. Now there are different customers. There are a few customers. For me, here, customer is a government. Let's assume they're okay if that can be solved in 5 hours, 10 hours, whatever. But today, we're in a world where we're talking about humanoids. 10 years back in US, how many of you have traveled there? The moment you saw a Tesla, it used to take a picture. 10 years back. But today, every alternate house has a Tesla. Tesla is boring. Tesla is hated by people. Sorry, not against the brand. I'm saying the more you have, the more problems you have. I follow something, one university called Singularity, and I recommend you guys to follow. These are the guys who talked about AI coming up 15, 20 years back. Now, the latest article is by 2028, which is not very far, you will start seeing humanoids walking on the road, finishing off their job and going home. It's not joke. It is going to happen in next 3 years. You will see humanoids going to work, night shift, day shift, walking on the streets, going home to get charged or whatever. This is going to be the reality in the next 3-4 years. So in that fast-paced world when we are, the same power issue which happened, I would want AI to detect that the power is gone. It locks a ticket automatically. It sends a drone to watch what went wrong and fix it and make sure it doesn't happen. It gives the data to the R&D team and see that this doesn't happen again. And by this way, no human intervention. Well, the intention is not to make it zero, but I'm saying these kind of things have to be thought about. Zero intervention, efficiency is higher. So this is exactly what we expect from our startups. So do you have a solution which is exponential? You can keep it down, sorry. Which is exponential. This is how clients and customers are expecting startups to come up with those exponential ideas.
Okay. So we talked about too many things. We talked about when do you look for startups to complement your work, and also we talked about the engagement models and stuff like that. So typically, startups will have to come and pitch to you, right? If we were to reverse that role, so if you have to do a reverse pitch to startups to say that so we need certain things. How will you go about doing that? And this question is for both of you again, and then anybody can take it to start with.
No, I think I will go back to the lighter moment story I told you about when you're giving your daughter to a new family. So it is not about startup giving you a job or you giving opportunity to a startup. It is vice versa. If a startup has a real solution that would really change my indicators, my sales goes up faster, my efficiency comes down, my employee satisfaction. So any of these indicators, not at a local level, can these really shake up the lighthouse at a global hub headquarters? So I think that is how today corporates are looking for those startups which you can make difference. They don't have patience. They can't wait for years. Do you have a solution? And is it proven? Do you have a POC? Please come over. So, and it's the reverse. In the past, corporates, if you have to go find in a specialized area, if you want a startup or a company, there used to be 1-2 guys only, they only do it. They do multiple companies. Today it is the reverse. For every idea, for every problem, you have thousands of startups. Some of them could be new. Some of them would have not even tried. Some of them maybe tried, failed, and they're redoing it. And that edge where each of them are sitting. So it is again, the story is reversed. Companies want to run faster than their competition. They want to improve their customer experience. They want to improve their products, everything. This can only happen with the marriage and partnership with the startups. But do you understand my business? When I say you're a startup, which is very good, you have technology, you have people, you know how to create a solution. But do you understand my business? Do you know what my customers are looking for? The moment I tell you a problem statement, can you convert that to a solution quickly? Can we co-partner, co-create on that one? So the scenario is actually changing.
Okay, so what would be your take on that reverse pitch?
If people haven't realized, I'm already pitching to the startups here. Right? So I'm already here. I'm talking about partnerships. I'm talking about co-creation. But let me remind you, just to watch a movie, we do a lot of research and go and watch a movie. We go to check out, who's the director, the actors, story, their history, their background. Yes or no?
We watch their reviews, rating.
Yeah. So how can we not do that when we are coming up with a partnership like this, which was never done before? So we feel that there is a lack of knowledge base that is around for finding out in this sector, in this technology, this horizontal, this domain, which are the startups that are existing. So it's an equal time taking for us also to understand the landscape of the existing ecosystem that we have. So we are also learning, but only partnerships, trying to learn each other is going to make us better. So for me, it's like, he used the term, um, even in marriage, people will go and take things for granted. But so I will not take that as a baseline. But I'm saying that, we should not take things for granted for sure. I'm already talking about it. You'll see action. It's not just words. That's my commitment. But like me, I would expect a forum where we can do that, the reverse pitching.
Fantastic. I think we are kind of running out of time, but just one last question. Again to both of you. So we are in Huddle 2025. In Huddle 2026, between now and then the next year, if we were to come back here, what is that one thing or one or two things that you would like to see change here in our ecosystem?
The one change I would want to see, I want to sit there. I want startups sitting here and telling what success story they have done in the last 1 year.
On top of that, I'll say that, I should be in a position to talk my story of how my 1 year has been working with a startup, probably sitting in this room.
Fantastic. Okay, I think we are almost out of time. So do you have time for questions? Okay. So we will take a couple of questions from you. If you have any questions, please. Yeah, please. Ask easy ones, okay?
Hello. Yeah. Thank you so much. I just came in between the last 15 minutes. My name is Premchand. I'm an ex-VP of Entry App. So just wanted to just to gain if anything I missed out. So you just said that GCC advantage how India Global Capability Center. So if any startups which is coming up for next generation, would you prefer the first priority in Kerala or in GCC?
Sí.
Couldn't get the question right.
Any startups which is going to happen, which the person should have founded should give the priority, first priority to Kerala or to GCC?
Okay. Calling a spade, you have an ecosystem with Kerala government, so you go with Kerala government first, because I don't have the ecosystem today. I'm building one, and in a year probably you should see that.
So typically the second question which will be added to that,
Sí.
if we start from this and if you have an office in UAE, that works out?
We are not talking about.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to
So
know.
I think you are looking at the Gulf Cooperation Council as the GCC. So we are talking about global capability centers. I think you got that terminology not
Wrong.
right.
Yeah, okay.
So another question.
Hello, sir. My name is Abhi. I represent an AI transformation company called A-Team. My question is to Sri Pravina ma'am and Srinivas sir. As you guys are decision makers, now you have a problem in front of you and you are finding a solution from maybe a startup or maybe some vendors. Right now, maybe you are seeking a proposed solution as well. But my question to you is, when you are as a decision maker's perspective, the foundational model owners like Meta, OpenAI, and Anthropic, they are releasing each versions every week. They are releasing and crushing startups every 2 weeks by their releases. So as a decision makers, the decision will be have an implication of financial constraints, allocation, all those kind of integrations. So when you made a decision, how often you retrospect whether there is an update coming from these bigger giants solving the existing problem, so whether we should again reinvest on the same solution by these startups, or should I go back to these bigger players? Thank you.
I would say quite frequently. We review that quite frequently because the technology is evolving every night, like I mentioned before. So we have a dedicated team who are hawkers, whose job is to only see what technology is coming, what we built versus how it is evolving, how can we actually catch up on that one. So it's a tri-party with the startups, because they also have a lot of information coming up. One, internal resources, and look at the solution, what you have built and what you're going to build. Tomorrow, you don't want to build a solution for tomorrow, which day after tomorrow it is old. That is how quick the evolution is happening. So we have a team of hawkers. Their job is to identify the upcoming technology which has already come, and where are you. So you need to do that consistently with the technology evolution which is happening nowadays. In the past, it's okay, you build something, it used to stay for about a year or two, but today it's a problem of many, right? And then, I used to have, when I finished my engineering, I used to have a company called IT Interlinks. I was doing a body shopping. The name of the company was Technology Making People Work, those days. But now, people making technology work. You sit down, you design what next it is. So, market is evolving, technology is evolving. There could be something which is absolutely opposite to what you have today the other week. Is that right? You need to put that in a template of your business case and see if it works. But you need to continuously have that radar, how technology is moving up and down.
Hi, I'm Shivani Parihast. We run a policy consulting firm, and we also have a governance technology platform. So we, from whatever I've heard from both of you, we are not incubated in Kerala, but very soon we will, because we see the advantages of being incubated here. Kudos to the startup mission here. So in case you want to come to Schneider, because you work a lot with ESG, and even for that matter Maximus, how do we get in touch with you? Because the platform that we're creating is also going to cater to ESG measurement, and how well the companies are going to be. It's a new mandate by SEBI. Now RBI has also come up with their own ESG guidelines for India. So that's one. And the second is, you were speaking, intentionality about the data protection. DPDP Act, of course, we know it's still in the pipeline. People talk about it all the time, but the implementation has not yet happened. The pathway is also not very clear. But, the European Data Protection Act. So in case we want to build for Schneider, what is it that we need to keep in mind in terms of your organization?
Specific to Snyder, I would say, while DPDP, whenever the moment it matures, it matures. For us, the thumb rule is continuing to be GDPR, which is the most strictest, I think, in the world. Yeah, and that's also stronger, because over the years they have actually refined. So across the company, we don't care which country we are in. We blindly use that as a threshold for us to follow. Now, if you have to pitch into Snyder on any of these things, I think for you the benchmark is GDPR. If you're hitting GDPR here, then I think you're in. Maybe. How do you? Not me. I'm sure there is a specialized teams who actually.
That can be done through startup mission.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't get your question. Okay.
So first of all, just to add on what Srini said, we need to have that refinement as well from our point of view, understanding the changes that are coming up. So there is a structure that needs to work on its own by design. And that by design is that, at once we had chief data officer because data was considered as the new oil. Now innovation, right? So we should have that structure in place to reflect and refine everything that is touching and changing us. So we must have that internal design of construct in place. at every level. So to the point he talked about the tri-party, we call as trifecta at Maximus. Every design must have a solution architect, every design must have a project manager, and every design should have a business person representing in that solutioning, so that it is a complete design versus just a pure tech play. So from that point, this information will also come from the project management and the governance space that, hey, these are the, whether it is GDPR, DPDP, or for us, Maximus, everything, has been very sensitive in the last 3 to 6 months. Doge, government shutdown, as an example. So that restricts or, changes the scenarios, right? So it's not just the laws, but it's all the political scenarios. So there's a lot of those things keep changing. So one, the structure should be there, which we have at Maximus. Second is a construct in which there's a innovation consultant or a person who is constantly looking for these changes and then coming back and talking about those changes which are going to make some, course corrections. And getting in touch, now that we are in, the startup mission here in Kerala, that will be the best bet for us to get us in one place. And as I said earlier, in a 1 year, probably you will have a dedicated one for Maximus also. But today, it's all about Kerala Startup Mission.